What is up, my friends? It is Thursday night, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. We're going to be discussing Eduardo Camavinga, as it looks like he could be up for sale. We're going to be chatting around the future of Arne Slot. We're going to talk about Mohamed Salah, Ibrahim KONATE, a couple of other players that we've been linked with as well with regards to incomings, two centre backs and a winger, and of course anything else that you guys would like to discuss. This is your show. The first poll question of the night that we have up is around Eduardo Camavinga, and we're asking, would you take Kamovinga for the rumoured £45 million or €50 million fee that is being reported that he's up for sale for? So on this one, I've been watching a couple of the comments before I went live talking about it. And for me, when I seen it initially, I was thinking, wow, 45 million quid or thereabouts for Kamovinga. Seems like a bargain. But then somebody mentioned his injuries, the physicality of the Premier League, and would it be a suitable signing? I have to say, I've gone back and forth. My initial instinct was to go, wow, yes, absolutely, Kamovinga will be brilliant. But I do have a bit more lingering doubts, which I've surprised myself about. I didn't think I would. I thought if you would have said to me, Craig, Eduardo Camavinga is available right now for about €50 million, I would have bitten your hand off. At least I would have assumed I would have. But yeah, I'm sort of somewhat on the fence on this one. So I'll be interested to see what you guys think in the comments. Look, he is a very, very good footballer. I've no problem in saying that one. But yeah, robustness or an out-and-out specialist in that area is what we need, or probably both, actually, if I'm being honest about it. So let me know your thoughts on it, and we'll move on to the poll in a little bit. I wanted to ask you guys a question. So I'm not sure if it's just me or maybe I'm a little bit overly sensitive to this topic, but I've noticed a lot of former players being wheeled out to sound supportive of Arne Slot over the past few days. Now, we've seen Phil Thompson on the Liverpool podcast today. You guys mentioned to me yesterday about Jamie Carragher, although he's apparently said something different today. I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you think that there are forces at work here trying to make out like it would be a rash decision to fire Arne Slot? Because that's the feeling I'm getting at the minute. Like the club are trying to put it out there that everything's grand, this was expected, everybody's happy. Yeah, I'm gonna say, it's a bit disconcerting to me as a fan, because it's like they don't read the room here, or our opinions as fans don't really matter, because like I said, it's pretty clear where we are with regards to the manager. But I just wanted, maybe it's something that you guys haven't noticed and I'm overly sensitive on, because I'm absolutely open to that possibility as well. Christina said, love the podcast, Craig. Thank you, Christina. We recorded that one earlier on today, and it is up on Spotify now. If you guys later on would like to give it a listen, please do. Myself, Connor and Chris sat down and we discussed, well, the Galatasaray game a little bit. We looked ahead to the game against Spurs. We talked about Mohamed Salah. And do you know what we actually did on the podcast to try to flip it on its head? We tried to debate pro Arne Slot. So we tried to debate to figure out positives and reasons why he may stay. And it was tough going, but, give it a listen and let me know what you think. The club are just trying to quell the fans until the end of the season, says Aaron Picard. Joseph Murphy, how are we, Joseph? Said the charm offensive from the club is definitely in full flow. Yeah, I wondered, was it me? Like, as I said, was I just looking for something that wasn't there? But I definitely get the sense that that's happening. You have Ornstein speaking about it on the podcast. Then you've got Phil Thompson speaking about it. Carragher speaking about it previously. Gary McAllister was also speaking about it. And Peter Crouch. We talked about Peter Crouch recently as well. A lot of people that are thinking it would be harsh to fire Arne Slot at the end of the season. And I'm very, very strong in my views that that's wrong, that he should be fired. And I don't like it. It's like these people don't understand the Liverpool fan base, which sounds weird to say, right? Because we're talking about former players of our club and players that we all loved. But it definitely feels like there's a bit of jobs for the boys going on here and not enough listening to the stakeholders, which are the fans. Kaz, how are we? Lovely to see you all the way over in Oz. Good morning, Craig, mods and community. Hope you're very well. Thanks for welcoming me. Number one for all my Liverpool info. I just hope we finish the season positively. It's a pleasure, Kaz. It's been lovely getting to know you a little bit over the past few months, and thank you for being with us as a member for 9 months and for coming in and being a valued member of our community as well. Yeah, look, we all want to finish the season on a positive note, definitely. And there are, like, one thing that we talked about in the podcast tonight was trying to figure out, you know, other reasons why we haven't been great this season, because as much as I think Arne is a big part of the problem, I'm absolutely open to a conversation that the lack of recruitment or not enough recruitment was to blame. Then, of course, there is the churn of players. There is the Diogo situation. But a lot of these seem to fall down for me when we talk about still underperforming now. So at the start of the season, yes, I can understand a churn of change. I can understand people coming in maybe and taking time to develop and new strategies for the manager and the league playing in a different way. But we're now into the business end of it, the final few months of the season, and I'm not really seeing improvements. I thought we'd put the set piece woes behind us, but of course, conceding from a corner against Galatasaray, and I don't remember if that was their first corner of the game or not. But again, it was very disconcerting to see Alexis McAllister being the one on Victor Osimhen from that corner. I still don't quite understand that one. Ulokomena or Ulok. How am I going to try to pronounce this one? Ulokema Friday. There you go. Thank you for becoming a member of Anfield Agenda FC. Some usernames on here are quite difficult, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're trying to combine things together or not. So again, thank you, my friend, for becoming a member. Really appreciate you. Pasky said, one thing we never really saw in the Jurgen Klopp era was too much PR. This roundtable BS is a joke. Coincidence when it dropped awful results, the worst we've seen for years. Time's up for Arna. So I wanted to actually talk about something John Aldridge said, which got my attention. I was reading a little bit in the Echo earlier on, and I was reading a piece from John Aldridge, and it said that Liverpool would love to have Jurgen Klopp back if Arne Slot was to leave the club. That's according to ex-Red forward John Aldridge, who also tipped the German to make a sensational return should Slot exit Anfield at the end of the season. I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't even opened my mind up to the possibility of Jurgen Klopp coming back because I don't think it's a real possibility. It would be interesting though. I'd be very much up for it and I'd very much welcome him coming back, but I got to be honest with the whole Edward situation at the club, I don't see it as being a runner, but interesting that Aldo was talking about it, because of course John Aldridge is going to be part of the setup for the charity match, which Jurgen is coming in for as well. So yeah, interesting words. Aaron said, yep, one corner, one goal. Yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it? That is frustrating. Villa got a win today, by the way, which helps the coefficient, and I know we talked about that a little bit yesterday. There was a bit more reporting on the coefficient today, which, look, long story short, it would have to be a real catastrophe for the English clubs not to get that extra spot. So Dale Johnson, BBC, said England remain on course to secure a 5th Champions League spot, despite Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester City losing the first leg of their last 16 ties. However, poor results for English clubs in the Europa League and Conference League could still make the race tighter, with the biggest impact likely to come if teams are eliminated next week. Now, of course, I think Liverpool will get through. Arsenal probably going to get through. Aston Villa have done themselves no harm in the Europa League. 1-0 win away from home against Lille. So, yeah, I think it is pretty safe that the English clubs will get the 5th spot. It's going to take a monumental catastrophe and other things to go against us for it not to happen. So I think we can safely say 5th spot will be secured by an English team. That meme guy said, isn't Kamavinga injury prone? And if so, isn't the one thing Liverpool doesn't need now injury prone players? Yes. Look, yes to the second part, sorry. On the first part, I actually don't know all that much about Kamavinga's injury record, but it just doesn't feel like a Liverpool signing to me. You know, it doesn't pass the smell test. Is he a good player? Absolutely. No denying that. But yeah, for me, it's just, I don't put much hope in this one. So, do you want me to bring you back to the good old days for a minute? Because this made me smile earlier on when I read it. It's a post from Empire of the Cop, and it's Jurgen Klopp on his footballing philosophy. Now, this interview was way back in 2016, but this just tells you the difference between where we were then and how we feel now. So this is what Jurgen had to say about his footballing philosophy. Having memorable games in a row, that's my first target. You leave the stadium wanting to see the next game. You can't wait for the next game. That's what football should be. If you can do this very often, then you will be successful 100%. And then Empire of the Cop post to say, we're a far cry away from that at the moment. That line there about leaving the stadium wanting to see the next game, you can't wait for the next game. That's pretty far removed from how Reds feel right now, unfortunately. And it just made me smile thinking about those 10 years that we then had with Jurgen afterwards, and everything that we all went through, all the games, all the moments, all the comebacks, all the heartbreak, just all of it. But you always wanted to go back, right? You always wanted to go again and see the team again. Biggie Mall said, you're going to make me cry in so many levels. I just thought I'd bring a bit of brightness in, though, for a minute, because it made me smile. And there hasn't been a lot of that lately. So, yeah, it was just an interesting juxtaposition of Jurgen's time versus how we're feeling now. Like, who would you want in midfield instead of Kamovinga? Well, let me say, I'm not closing the door on Kamovinga. He's a very good player. And if he came in, I certainly wouldn't be angry about it. But we need somebody to come in. And I don't think we're going to get Elliot Anderson. Both the Manchester clubs are looking at him. I think Romano said something earlier on about Manchester City wanting him. After that, I've always said it feels like Wharton is a Liverpool player. But what we can't do is go on another season without a proper recognised number 6. And saying that, people would argue that Wharton isn't what we would call an out-and-out number 6. But, I think he's certainly more defensively minded player than we have with I was going to say Gini Wijnaldum, with Ryan Gravenberch. Craig, what did you think of the Cheltenham Festival? Do you know what? As much as I love an old bet, I don't bet on horse racing for a couple of reasons. One, I know absolutely nothing about it, like nothing. But the thing that always stuck out to me about horse racing and why I never bet on it would be there's just so many variables. There's just so many possibilities for things to go wrong, and I didn't pay any attention to it, my man. Just not my thing. I'm glad that isn't something that tempts me in, because I do love a bet, but have stayed away from the horses because I just don't understand it. I don't know what about horse racing. Wouldn't even know where to start. Grim Reaper said, Craig, the part I don't think we will ever find out is why we haven't even looked like clicking, considering these players are training almost every day together. Well, that sort of leads me into a very interesting post by Simon Brundish, and credit to Simon for this. Simon did a bit of a deep dive into the minutes that players are playing this season, their career high minutes, and the trajectory to where they're on to finish this season with regards to minutes. And Simon's work said that 8 lads on target to record career highs in minutes played in Liverpool team. Szoboszlai will smash his record next Wednesday. Our 34-year-old workhorse of a captain will set a career benchmark as well. So let me just give you the players that Simon has highlighted as being on a trajectory to get more minutes than they've ever played. Firstly is Virgil van Dijk. Virgil, his current career high for minutes in a season is 5,815. He's currently on 4,637, but if Virgil continues to play as many games as he has, by the end of the season, Virgil at 34 will have played a career high 6,323 minutes at 34. Then we go to Dominik Szoboszlai, who, yes, has had a pretty fledgling career thus far, but his career high minutes-wise was 4,670. This season, he's played 4,500, and he's on target to absolutely obliterate the amount of minutes he's played in any other season. He's on target to play 6,136 minutes. And as I mentioned, his previous career high was 4,670. Then we move down to Ryan Gravenberch. Ryan's previous career high was just shy of 5,000 minutes, and he's on target to surpass that by about 200 this season so far. KONATE, same story again. He's on target to play a career high 5,080 minutes, which would be 800 minutes more than any other season. McAllister, he's on target to just about play more minutes. Kirke, same thing. Wirtz and Ekitike. So why is that important? Well, it's important because that increased workload is, of course, going to have knock-on effects and would highlight the possibility of injuries. So I'm not going to claim to understand all of this from back to front like Simon does, but it certainly shows that we haven't rotated enough or haven't had the ability to rotate it enough, especially at centre-back. Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate, and I've said this at multiple points throughout this season. We've been extremely fortunate that neither of those two gents have picked up a serious injury this year, which really would have seen us screwed. Absolutely screwed. So if you want to check it out for yourself, it's at Simon Brundish on X if you want to give him a follow. I think he still works with our friends at Anfield Index as well. But either way, definitely worth having a look if you're into that level of detail around the minutes that Liverpool players are playing. Nemesis said, Craig, respect, deserve all love. You're the best Liverpool fan. Mate, I appreciate those kind words so much. Thank you. I really do. It's been an honour. Obviously, in the last few weeks in particular, you guys have been on it. It's been brilliant. These are the bright points of my days when I get to come on and chat with my fellow Reds about the club, about the direction we're in, sharing the highs and the lows of it, because, you know, ultimately, we all want the same thing. We may disagree occasionally on starting players, managerial situation, transfers or whatnot. But underneath it, we're all Liverpool fans, right? We all want the same thing. We want the club to be successful. Invis Chris said, hey Craig, watching you since July and feeling mentally exhausted since September. Just thank you. Doing great content, helped me a lot through it. Appreciate you. I have to admit, Chris, I hit a bit of a brick wall myself earlier on this season with regards to mental exhaustion. Normally, I'm lucky enough that I get to go away during the international breaks, recharge for a week, get a little bit of sunshine and come back. But my last holiday, I was injured, so I was basically in pain for the entire break. So came back and I was mentally exhausted, and I've been kind of just crossing off the X's on the calendar, getting through to this one. But I feel so much healthier because of the support you guys have given me. That might sound a little bit weird, but it really has helped re-energize me knowing the belief you guys have on our channel and the support you guys give us. It makes me feel very fortunate and very loved. Thank you, Chris. Right, so the poll we have up is on Kamavinga. So if you haven't voted away in it, please do. We're asking, would you sign Eduardo Kamavinga for £45 million, which is rumoured to be the release fee, or the fee, excuse me, that Real Madrid would be looking for. So let me just read you out that post. So Transfer Sector, crediting Mate Moreto, said, Real Madrid will consider offers for Kamavinga this summer. €50 million is the starting price. Now, you know, on the face of it, that's fair value. You know, €50 million for Kamavinga, I think there's good value in it. But as many of you guys have rightly said, you would have to look at the injury situation. And what we wouldn't want is a player coming in, not being able to cope with the physicality of the Premier League and just being unavailable for large swathes of time. So I'd leave it down to the sports science team to have a look into that. But as a player, just with regards to his quality, very, very good footballer. Eddie said, do you think Slot gets the sack? Yeah, yes, sorry, Eddie. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yes, I do, but there has been a noticeable push to try to get support behind the manager. And I don't think people are going to fall for it. And I don't think the people that are openly supporting the manager from regards to former players, how do I say this without sounding extremely rude about it? I wouldn't expect people that still have commercial relationships with the club to say anything else, if that makes sense. So some of these comments are coming from the Liverpool podcast, the Liverpool FC official podcast, so I wouldn't really expect anything else. But again, I would ask, are some of these people being disingenuous? Because Same with Carragher. We talked about Carragher saying one thing and then maybe showing something else. And it winds me up if I think people are just being a company man and not being honest about it. Because if all of these former players really do believe that Arne should stay on, I really think they're not reading the room. Or maybe they just don't think their fans' opinion is that important, and I don't know, but it feels a weird one because I'm yet to find people still supporting the manager. And I'm aware that maybe people that are drawn to our channel may be drawn to a similar mindset to me. But truly, even looking around and trying to look at platforms and reading comment sections, there's not much support out there. There really isn't. So I don't know what is personally convincing these people that he's going to be the guy. Because even if we take everything on board, we allow for the change of players, we allow for the tragedy with Diogo, we allow for, relationships to be formed out there on the pitch and injuries, it still doesn't explain the shit football. It just doesn't. It doesn't explain how the manager is unable to G the players up and prepare them for a game. It doesn't explain how he's been outwitted out there by coaches of smaller clubs. None of that is explained to me. So other than vibes, what really is showing them that he's the guy? And winning the league last year, I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it. Because I feel really strongly about this. He won the league and he deserves credit for that. Of course he does. But I can't state strongly enough how angry I am that at the very first opportunity for him to put his own stamp on it, he shits the bed. And I don't think that can be understated. We took a winning machine and then upgraded some of the parts to it, and we've been so far off it. And like I've tried to say on many occasions, this didn't happen just for a couple of months in the season. We are now in March. We've got 9 league games to go, and we still look like strangers out there on the pitch. So I don't see what the logical reason, other than vibes or that old "it's the Liverpool way" stuff. I don't get it. I thought the Liverpool way was to win. No. That Ornstein quote yesterday had me fuming. That Ornstein quote is... How do I say this again? I've no doubt that David was told that. I've no doubt that that's what David heard or was the vibes he was given. But from speaking with journalists over the years, I can tell you that they often question these things, and it is a personal decision then whether you go public with it. So I've no doubt David was told that, but I definitely disagree. And I think Romano's take was closer to reality. That yes, there will be a review at the end of the season, but that review can't be anything but scathing. So other than him being Hughes and Edwards' guy, what is there to justify giving him another season? Truly. Any other manager, if he was at any other club, would have been fired. And I don't get the insistence on continuing to stick with somebody that showed no ability to fix the situation or to fix the relationships with the players. I don't get it. Truly, I do not get it. Paddy Wacker. Craig, can I personally say thank you for speaking openly on men's mental health? As you know, it's a taboo sort of issue in Ireland. You speak about mental health and people assume you're weak. Excuse me. They definitely do. I'd love to sit here and tell you that it isn't held against you, but unfortunately it is, and it's tough, but I think the only way that we can really start to kick down these barriers is to talk about it openly. And, I'm so incredibly moved by the way Paddy Pimblett speaks about it after his fights and stuff. Genuinely, if you're in there and you're seeing a man as hard as he is, like he's in the UFC fighting for a living, and you see him speaking about it, you see Tyson Fury speaking about it, you see so many former players speaking about it, I think it is right that we speak about it, because it doesn't show weakness, it shows courage. It shows courage to come back from the edge and not give up. It shows courage to understand that, yeah, okay, I'm hurting now, I need a break, I need to rebuild, I'll be back. And the one thing that I really would say to finish up on this subject, Paddy Wacker, is the absolute lack of investment in mental health services. And I can't speak to the UK, I can only speak about Ireland because that's where I live, is embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing, particularly around young people and the lack of services and availability. I was on a waiting list to see a psychiatrist or psychologist, excuse me, for 3 years, and there wasn't one on staff. I had to go private and do it eventually. And I was fortunate enough that I could afford to do that at the time. But yeah, it's important we talk about these things, mate, because I'm going to be up and down over my time on here, and there'll be times where I come on and openly say to you, I'm struggling. At the moment, I'm in a good place. You're totally right, said Eddie. Appreciate you, Eddie. Let's talk Ibu for a minute. Alex Crook reporting, he said, Ibrahima Konate's future at Liverpool remains uncertain. While talks with Liverpool are ongoing, Real Madrid are among the clubs understood to be monitoring Konate's situation. Yeah, this is just getting another one of those situations where I just want to know what's happening, you know? I think we're all exhausted at hearing about, you know, a player who's near the end of his contract may go here, may stay, may go there. We've had it the last 2-3 seasons. It's exhausting as a fan. You know, constantly on the edge of what's going to happen here. Is he going to come? Is he going to stay? Is he not going to? I don't know. But I know we got to figure it out soon because the club have to start planning for every eventuality, which I'm sure they are. But they need to know what they're working with. So, speaking about centre-backs, Aldo also threw a name out there that he'd like to see Liverpool look at, and I'm fully on board with this. So he said, Liverpool legend John Aldridge, and who the club should look to sign in the summer, he said, Nathan Collins. What you see is what you get. He's just a defender. He's a typical type of defender. Sometimes you don't want the fancy footballers. You need somebody who can just put his head on the ball from a corner, a set play, or get rid of it, head the ball 30 yards like he used to do. That would be an interesting signing. I think Nathan Collins would be an incredible signing. So let me give you a bit of a background on Nathan Collins if you don't know too much about him. At every club he's been at, and every stage of his development, he's been a leader, he's been a captain, and he's been vocal. And he is, in my opinion, a really underrated Premier League defender who could easily play at a higher level than he is with Brentford, with all due respect to Brentford. So I'd love Nathan Collins to come in. I've said this to you guys for a long time, and it's not just an Irish bias. He genuinely is a good, as Aldo said, defender. A proper, old-fashioned defender who was going to put his body on the line, get in blocks, and do the dirty stuff. And we're lacking in that at the minute. He's good, but he's not consistent, though. Collins, I respectfully disagree. I think he is very consistent. I think Brentford maybe could be a little bit inconsistent, but honestly, from Collins' time, wasn't it Wolves that he was at beforehand? Was it Wolves? Where was Nathan Collins before he went to Brentford? Was it Wolves? My head says Wolves. Sorry if I'm wrong. Yeah, just a really good defender. Craig, think bring back Kwanzaa. Well, we have the option. I think the likelihood seems to be not this summer, but it would be the summer after, where if Liverpool did look to do it, that would be when. But I honestly don't know what way that one goes. It was Stoke and Wolves. Yeah, cool. Cheers. Craig, this is spot on, Paddy Wacker, and this is what does my head in, bro. Craig, 1 week Real Madrid want Ibu, then they don't. When you read out all the players coming to the end of their contracts, I had to think what's happening with the club. They let Trent walk. Yeah, and I've said this as well. Like, as a player, yes, Real Madrid are a big club, but you must look at them and go, well, do they really want me? Because like you've rightly said, 1 week it's, yeah, they want Konate. Then another week, nope, they don't want Konate. They've rang Liverpool to say that they don't want Konate. And it was kind of, if I was representing them, or if I was Liverpool, I'd be like, mate, we want you here. We're trying to get you to stay. We know what we want. Can you say the same about Madrid? They want you now. They don't want you next week. I don't know what happens, but I know I'm tired of it. Not Konate. I mean, I'm tired of this situation as a Liverpool fan. of these contracts getting to the points where, really important squad players are on a knife edge. We don't know what way it's going to go. It's not great for planning. And I do hope we don't see much more of it. We know Robbo's up at the end of this season. Then next season we've got a whole host of players whose contracts are up, including Alisson Becker, Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah. So, yeah, it's exhausting having to go through this every season. And I still don't know why the club let it go this late. They did it with Virgil, they did it with Mo. They're doing it again here with KONATE. I don't understand the thought process. Enigmatic Figure said, I only see us getting Kamovinga if Maka goes the other way. So, on Maka, I said this in the video earlier on, he said something and I don't know how to interpret it. So I want to know what you guys think, because I really, really don't know what he means by this. Let me read it out to you. So, Maka, speaking to at Lagos Neta, said, I became a dad and you start prioritising a lot of things. And maybe it's not so selfish to only do what I want. I've seen this everywhere today as a quote, but I don't know how to interpret it. I don't know what he means by that. It could be nothing to do with football. It could be everything to do with football. I don't know. Anybody got any ideas on it? Because, I'll read it out to you again. I became a dad and you start prioritising a lot of things. And maybe it's not so selfish to only do what I want. I don't know what to take from that. The pessimist in me thinks it's him saying that I want to go to Spain. That's the pessimist in me. The optimist in me thinks, I don't know, maybe he just wants to be a bit more selfish in his life about certain things. I don't know. Paddy Wacker said, surely Ebu isn't blind. Look at the treatment of Trent. All he needs to do is open his eyes. Remember, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And also, a bit of self-awareness. Like, you've made mistakes. You're not a Virgil van Dijk. Understand where you are as a player as well. I want KONATE to stay. I really do. But I struggle to see him as a leader. And I've said this for quite a while. Very good defender and I want him to stay. But I struggle to see him as a leader. Somebody who could be the next Virgil van Dijk. That I don't see. Kobe said, Legend Craig, we should go for Barcola. His pace is frightening and scores goals. Would be a good choice for... what was this? Who'd be a good choice for left back? I don't know who you mean there. Would be a good choice for left back. Better than centre back in my opinion. Who? Oh, Van de Ven. Sorry, Van de Ven would be a good choice. So yeah, Van de Ven in a back three. The way my mind is at the minute, if we're looking at Van de Ven, Bastoni, it's a back three that we'd be playing for them to be suited into the way we play. Or the way they're at their best is what I'm trying to say. My apologies, I was kind of stumbling my words there. Yeah, they're better on the left side of a back three. Have a little bit more concern, particularly with Van de Ven in a two. But you're right, you can also cover on the left side of left back. But I do have to say, I have had concerns at how Van de Ven has dealt with the situation at Spurs. Where, some of the bits of his body language out there. There are things that, make me think, has he got the right mentality to come in to a club like Liverpool? And I'm not really sure on that, but at the minute, whatever's going on at Spurs, it's rotten to the core. And I'd need to figure out what's going on there, because it just seems like a very toxic place at the minute. Leone will be the next VVD. I have such high hopes for him. I really do. We only had a small sample size of Giovanni, but wow, incredibly impressive, and can't wait for him to be back. Really excited. Didn't know much about him before we'd signed him. Like everybody else, I'd seen a few clips, but like I said, when he played, you just see it straight away. You look at him and you go, oh yeah, okay, I get it. He's got the attributes. He looks so far past his years as a youngster. He looks so much more mature, even on the ball. And again, a big physical unit of a fella. Right, so we asked, would you sign Kamovinga for £45 million? 82% of you guys said yes, 18% said no, and thank you to everybody that voted. David, how are we, dude? Lovely to see you as always, sir. Evening, Craig, bro, and our lovely community. Appreciate you, sir. Always lovely to see you win, and I hope life's treating you well. Would you do Kamovinga for Macca plus 40 million from Madrid? So here's where I'm at when it comes to potential player plus cash deals. The player would have to be a player that we already wanted and would have an interest in, if that makes sense. So if Kamovinga is somebody that the club would have on a list of players that they think could come in and do a job, then I think, yes, those type of numbers make sense. But if Kamovinga isn't somebody that the club want, then no. Because then you're just, bringing in something for the sake of it that could do a job but isn't really on your list. So, like I said, it would have to be somebody that the club have an eye on, and this presents them with a genuine opportunity that they think, okay, maybe Macca might want to move, might not, I don't know. But that's the only way I'd be interested in something like that. David Woods, how are you, David? Said, sorry, but every time I've watched Bastoni, he's given a pen, foul, own goals. I think it's just jinx. Look, I think he's a very good defender. But again, I'm going to say in a back three, I'd have a lot more concern if we were to play him as a two in the centre-backs. But Peter Rourke said, Liverpool hold a long-term interest in Alessandro Bastoni. The Inter Milan, will only entertain bids in excess of £80 million for the defender. Now, I read a post from an Inter account. I can't remember the Inter Central or something, or Inter Gold or something like that. And they were saying that there's only two players, I think it was Estupinan and Lautaro Martinez, that are off limits for this summer. Everybody else has a price. So if Bastoni does have a price, and that price is 80 million quid, if KONATE left, yes, please. Thank you very much. But again, it's more suited to a back three and doesn't have the aerial prowess that a Virgil van Dijk or an Ibrahim KONATE or probably a Giovanni Leone even would have. But it's a big number, and you would have to be pretty certain that this is the guy that you want. Like this, it's a big amount of money, 80 million quid. So let me ask that in a poll. So, would you sign Bastoni for 80 million blips? So would you sign Bastoni for 80 million Great British pounds? Corbyn said, Wharton, 2 wingers and 2 centre-backs in the summer. You happy? So at the moment, I think we're in a 1 centre-back mould until we know what happens with KONATE and Gomez. So let's just say KONATE stayed. Then I'm Gomez out, another centre-back in, and we'd be okay. Wharton, 2 wingers and 2 centre-backs. From reports anyway, you see David Ornstein saying yesterday that Liverpool are interested in a wide attacking forward. Now, again, I don't know if that's before we look at a potential exit. So let's say we don't lose players. Then yes, somebody like Yan Diamonde, Wharton, and a centre-back would be pretty good. I do think, taking my Connor Bradley tinted glasses off, there is a real question around the right-back situation for next season. Because we can't go into another season underserved in any position. And we also have to really look at the right wing position properly. We know we're losing Chiesa. We know we never replaced Diaz. We do need to do something there in the right wing, because even if Mo stays, he's not going to be able to play 60 games in a season, and he isn't the man he once was, so isn't as undroppable, say, as he was in the past. So yeah, a lot of ifs, ands, and buts coming up for the summer, but the biggest one, of course, is around the head coach. Jamie said KONATE is Nicky Tanner and Torben Picnic levels. So I remember when we were talking about Mark A, Jamie, and I was trying to say I would, we were talking about which one's better. And I said I would go for Mark A because he's more consistent. And I still stand over that. I think Mark A is a more consistent defender. But when KONATE is at it, he's really good. But he does have that potential for a catastrophe in him, for a stupid red card or silly niggly fouls or, just positionally maybe being a little suspect. There are things about him that I don't think he's going to be an era-defining defender for us, but I'm more than happy for him to stay. I'm not going to sit up crying at night if he decides he's going to leave Liverpool. I think he can be replaced, but let's wait and see. Peter, how are you, sir? Said, evening, Craig. Why did it feel like we often find ourselves on the wrong side of VAR on-field decisions? How many penalties for us this season, for example? Time wasting plus just a feeling. Appreciate you. Look, we as football fans always think we're being shafted, right, by the referees. I felt last season there were probably more egregious decisions against us than I can at least remember this year. So what I've done this year, Peter, different to other seasons, is I've kept a log of every game and the important moments from that game, how I felt during that game, and how the game went for us on the pitch. So it'll help me for my notes at the end of the season when I'm doing some review videos and stuff like that. And there aren't too many this year where I feel like at least the poor refereeing decisions impacted a result. But it is a particularly shit season for officiating in general. Actually, on that, I want to read you what Gary Lineker had to say. So Gary Lineker was talking about the disallowed Galatasaray goal against us. And this is what Gary Lineker had to say. I've watched it 50 times and it's absurd. There's no impact from Yilmaz. It's just a terrible, terrible decision and VAR just waved it on. I said to you guys at the time, I said it during the watch along, I felt we got very, very fortunate with that one. And I would agree with Gary Lineker that if that was Liverpool that scored it, I'd want that goal to stand because I don't think there was interference. And I said it on the night, we got very, very lucky. So yeah, wanted to get your thoughts on that one because we could have easily been 2-0 down there. And I wouldn't have really been able to complain about it because, like I said, my view is we were fortunate. Maddie said, Kamavinga, too many injuries, I wouldn't go near him. So, yeah, for me, Maddie, it would take our sports science team maybe seeing something that they think that they could improve or feeling confident that they could bring him to Liverpool and we wouldn't see the same. But again, I'm certainly not qualified to talk about his physical makeup, but as a player, very good. But I totally understand any concerns around injuries because we don't need more injury-prone players coming in. Craig, it's because of the player blocking Robbo. I totally understand the decision. I just don't agree with it. I understand why they gave it, but being really honest with you, I think they gave it for offside from the initial ball without the interference. It feels like the interference became a talking point after they'd realised that he wasn't actually offside. But it is what it is. We got away with it. It benefits us. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm unhappy about it. Of course, I'm very happy about it. But I'd just be honest, If it was given against us, I'd be annoyed. Right, so let's have a look at Kamavinga's record here. Okay. I mean, he still plays plenty of games. So let's have a look at his Real Madrid career. 40 games in 21-22, 59 games in 22-23, 46 games in 23-24, 35 games in 24-25, and so far this season 30. So, we're still playing plenty of football, and thank you, Keno, for sending that one on to me. Germany Goes to Hollywood said, "Hey Craig, what do you think about our homegrown situation? Collins would count as homegrown. The club can't oversee this situation." Yes, we do need to keep an eye on it. You're right. And Collins would certainly help. Anybody that's homegrown obviously probably comes with a premium with regards to price. But yeah, the club will be aware of that. But you're right, we do need to keep an eye on it, especially if we want to fill out the squad to its full potential. With numerically, I think, what is it, 8 homegrown players you have to have as a minimum if you want to have the full squad. But look, I've been a fan of Collins for a while. And when we were talking about centre-backs in the summer, his name was one of the ones that I was saying we should be looking at. Now, he is tied down to a very long contract at Brentford, so you would have to take that into account. And Keith Andrews, I'm sure, wouldn't want to lose him there. There's one Irishman to another as well. But look, they are a selling club, Brentford, and I think everybody has a price. So here's something I wanted to run past you. Chelsea need a goalkeeper. I have a sneaky feeling they might try to have a look at Kamovinga Kelleher. I was surprised they didn't when Kelleher was up for sale at the end of the season. I was surprised that Chelsea's name weren't in the mix there because he's miles better than that they had at the club. Miles better. I think a load of club missed out on Kelleher because he should have had really good offers. I'm not saying Brentford isn't a good offer. They're a good Premier League club now, but yeah, I was surprised that maybe there wasn't slightly higher calibre of clubs in for Kamovinga, especially after what he'd done with us and shown that he belongs at the top level. Tyler Morley said, "Love your content, mate." Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Like I said, it's been incredible for the last few weeks, in particular, the amount of people who are popping in to say something kind like that. And I promise you, these type of warm comments, man, they make a big difference to people. I've often said to you that sometimes, I have this thing about wanting to make people smile if I have an interaction with them. Because you never know. I know so many times that I've been down in the dumps and been feeling shitty, and somebody's just said one nice thing to me or made me smile, and it's changed my whole day. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate you, Tyler. I really do. Right, I'd like to get Murillo or Kalulu, not going to lie. If we can, I would try to get both. Don't think we have to spend more than 80 million for both of them combined, said Ahad Sheikh. Now, let me actually touch on that one, mate, because one of the players you mentioned there, Kalulu, covered in the video earlier on today. This here said Juventus are expecting Liverpool to step up their interest in centre-back Pierre Kalulu after recent scouting missions, according to Empire the Cop, who posted at Mark Bruss COS as the source, on the 25-year-old who's been watched by Manchester United and Liverpool. I don't know anything about Kalulu, but I do know age profile-wise, 25 is bang smack where I want us to be looking for a centre-back. 25, 26, that is exactly where I want them. So, yeah, is he good enough? I don't know. I don't watch Juventus all that much, so I don't know much about Pierre Kalulu, but certainly in the media today as a player we're looking at. Peter, you should consider coming to Norway to host the show. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'd do it, mate. Look, I'm serious, Peter. When I adjust in the chair. I've no plans immediately for any more shows, but something like that would really excite me. I've been looking for an excuse to get to Norway for quite a while because, some of the scenery looks stunning. And I've seen friends of ours who've gone over and visited and stuff and looked at some of the fjords. It just looks stunning. But the problem has always been, Peter, that it's finding the venues for these things. This is where local people on the ground really help. Some of the shows we've done have come about because people have said to us, "Look, Craig, have a look at this place. I think this would fit." And that's kind of how we came to the Hot Water Comedy Club as well. We just got recommended it by somebody, and now that is literally our home when we're in Liverpool. I wouldn't even put on a show anywhere else in Liverpool. It's Hot Water all the way. I'd love to come to Norway. I would, and Connor would love to come as well. So always, I say the same thing. if you have a supporters club or a bar, or you're in a place where there's a load of Liverpool fans and maybe some of them like the channel and would love us to come over, it doesn't even have to be a show. We could come over for a watch along and a chat. Always happy to do it. Just reach out to us and we'll try to make it work, because truly that's what this is about for me, meeting other Liverpool fans. And that's my favourite part of all these shows, is the part afterwards where I get to shake people's hand and say thank you for your support, thank you for coming. Yeah, and they've been some of the most memorable parts of this whole journey for me. Eno, how are we, sir? Said, Craig, what do you think the fans should do to show that they are not with the manager? Do you think they should do in the Hodgson era, where they didn't fill Anfield, keep up the good work? So I have been thinking quite a bit about that, Ian, over the last couple of days. And I think the best I can come up with is that I think fans should wait until the season plays out a bit more. So we know where, like, let's say we got to a point by end of April that we were out of the FA Cup and we were out of the Champions League and we looked like we were comfortably going to get into the Champions League spots. Then I would say is the time for us to make our feelings known. Because I don't want fans, and fans certainly wouldn't want, to destabilise anything else this season. So I would say we're stuck with them till the summer, come what may. Wait until see how this goes out. Wait until we're out of a competition or two, and then let our feelings be known. Because I don't know what more fans can do. Nobody wants fans not going into Anfield. Nobody wants fans leaving. But also nobody wants to continuously be told that the guy that nobody really feels a connection with is going to be there come what may. That, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like almost, we know best, and, shut the fuck up and continue supporting. Fans' views should come into the equation in a reasonable way. Yeah, so that's what I would suggest anyway. Let the season play out, come what may, and then have our say before the end of the season, but when the pictures become a bit clearer. There was something else on that, actually, Ian, that I wanted to bring up while we were talking about it. What was it? No, it might come to me. But yeah, sorry, Ian, that's kind of where I'm at, mate. Pierre Kalulu is too slow for Premier League football, said David Bassett. Thank you, Dave. David lives over in Italy, so I know David pays quite a lot of attention to Serie A. I appreciate your input, sir. Jonathan said, hope you're well. Just come out of hospital. Always happy, and I feel good when I watch you. Well, firstly, Jonathan, my friend, I hope whatever had you in hospital that you're okay and you're on the mend. Again, pleasure to have you in, mate. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, and wishing you a speedy recovery from whatever your ailment was, sir. Craig, I think next season we have depth and players come back from injuries and we can win Champions League and Premier League. So I'd have no debate with you on we'll be better next season. Fully agree with that. I think the real question to me is it going to be enough with him? Because you're right. Players will be back from injury. They'll have gotten to know each other a bit better. But I still cannot underline strongly enough how I don't think he's the guy. And I don't think Champions League qualification should be enough. Because I've seen so many former players talk about if he doesn't get Champions League football, he'll be fired. That isn't the goal. That was never the goal. Champions League football is good, but it's more important for the owners financially. It's not good for us as fans to just qualify for it. That's not our aim. We aim to win the fucking Premier League. Not to go out there and just make up the numbers and scrape into 5th place. That's a failure. And that wasn't the objectives of the season. He's failed miserably this year. And it winds me up when I'm seeing narratives rewritten or, what we all expected rewritten. Peter said, nice to hear. A lot of Reds in Bergen. You're very welcome. We got new neighbours moved from Ireland as well. Nice people. Nice. Genuinely, Peter, would love to do it. Would love to do it. If you want to get in touch with us, mate, if you know of a place or you speak to your supporters club or they want us to come over, honestly, our pleasure. Be a joy. I look for an excuse to go to Norway, mate, so happy to do it. Mello said, I agree, the performances have been dreadful. So yeah, so for me, when it comes to next season, I ask myself, yes, we'll be better, and I agree with that 100%, but is that enough? Is he going to be the one to get every inch out of this squad? Is he going to be the one to get every percentage out of them? No. And I think the damage has been done. He knows it. He said it himself, and I keep going back to this. He knows that once the fans turn, it's a long, near impossible way back from that. And that every time a couple of results don't go the way we want, the calls are going to be there. But the 50 games split thing that we talked about yesterday, that should be enough of an indicator to show that he isn't the guy for me. So the 100 games he has as Liverpool head coach, the first 50 were far more palatable. 36 wins, 7 defeats, 7 draws. That's fine. But the last 50 games, 26 wins, 16 defeats, and 8 draws. Even over the last week, we've lost 2 games of football. You know, it just is not acceptable for a Liverpool manager. Some people are going on like he's had nothing to work with this season. And I've gone on about injuries and whatnot. The spine of the team has been there. And that midfield's the same midfield that he had last year. So he basically got to swap out Harvey Elliott for Florian Wirtz. He got to swap out, he got to add, let's say. No, we got to swap out Kostas Tsimikas for Milos Kerkez. We got to add in Jeremy Frimpong. We got to change our 2 centre forwards because of obviously one tragedy and then one player who wasn't cutting the mustard to Ekitike and Isak. And I'm supposed to feel like that's somehow hardship to Arne. That, you know, given 450 million quid's worth of talent to replace players, some of them that he wasn't really playing that much, has been a hardship? Like, really, think about this. The narrative they're trying to spin here is absolute bullshit. He's been given upgrades and shit to bed. And then starts banging on about, like, in the summer it was all, we want to challenge to compete for everything. This club's going in the direction where we want to be domestically dominant and challenge for European competition. And now it's, well, we all knew. We all knew that this season was going to be a transitional season. We all knew that this season was going to have ups and downs. Did we fuck? Did we fuck? That is just garbage. And again, please, please, please stop taking football fans, 1, for granted, and 2, for idiots, because we aren't. Would you take Kefren Thuram as a CDM? Because to me, he's better fit for the team. He's a very strong, composed player, and he's not an injury-prone player. So this is where I've got a gripe with that potential scenario. We could have gotten him for a very low fee, and we decided against it. So why would we, it would be an indictment to me of our recruitment if all of a sudden we wanted to go back in for a player that we could have had for, I want to say, like 14 million, something like that, when he was into his last year of his, or at the end of his Mönchengladbach contract, or they were willing to sell him. Yeah, it would just be another example of us shitting the bed and waiting too long for a player. You know, we could have had Virgil before he went to Southampton, and we were, you know, too arrogant to sign a player from Celtic at centre back. So the player you could have had for 12 million quid ended up costing you 75 million quid, because Gary McAllister told Brendan Rodgers about Virgil when he was up at Celtic. And it was, well, that's the Scottish League. He won't be able to cope coming down here. Well, he did quite well at Southampton, didn't he? When we then went and paid £75 million for him. Mello said Alonso doesn't just play 3 at the back. He's tactically flexible. I thought Slot was, but he's just afraid to try new things because of the pressure. He is tactically flexible, you're right. And he'd shown that at Real Madrid in the short time he got to show that. Jamie said, the question is, do we trust Slot to go into a new season with a few new players and bring the best out of us? No is my answer. So on that, Jamie, let me just add on a little bit to what you've said, mate. We all agree that this is going to be a summer where we go into the market to sign 5 players, minimum. So why am I expected, Jamie, and why are you expected to think that next season will be anything different? Why was it this season obvious struggle bringing in new players and bedding them in, but next season, when we do the same thing in the summer, it's all going to be different? Or are we going to get this bullshit next season as well? That, well, you know, this is transitional season. He's in the job 2 years. Let's not forget that. 2 years. They chose to not sign somebody in the first year. That was a conscious decision. Now they're talking about too many players coming in one go, yada, yada, yada. It's just one bullshit excuse after another to justify failures. And where's the accountability? Because, you know, I said something on the stream yesterday that somebody tried to pull me up on until I explained it more. There's this constant battle in my mind between the Liverpool way, because the Liverpool way in the modern day seems to be used to justify not making, let's say, a cutthroat decision, or, you know, we're not harsh on managers. But how am I supposed to put that to bed with, we also are supposed to be winning? Liverpool exists to win trophies. Liverpool want to become a bastion of invincibility. The modern day version or iteration of the term the Liverpool way seems to be trotted out to justify us not having the balls to make a decision. And I don't like it. You know, it's undermining what the club really is about. Backing a failing manager, you don't get fucking pats on the back for that. There's no attaboys, well done, you showed them. You didn't sack the failing manager. What's so Liverpool way about that? Like, it's almost like we want to self-sabotage so we can say it's the Liverpool way. You know, we do this way. We don't sack managers. Well, you fucking should. You should be sacking them, because any other club would have sacked them. And again, when I grew up, the first thing, or one of the first things, I learned about Liverpool Football Club is the phrase Liverpool Football Club exists to win trophies. You don't get to become the most successful team in English football history by just going around being Mr. Nice Guy. He's not good enough. Bite the bullet and fire him. Jamie said the Liverpool way is the reason we never won the league for so long. We don't move with the times. It's like, you know, I said as well yesterday, like, these are just taglines that get trotted out in marketing speak to sell shit. But when it comes down to it, really? Like, I want ruthlessness at the top of the club. I don't, like, nobody's saying we go through 2-3 managers in a season. But if something isn't working out, much like with a signing on the playing side of it, you just got to move on. And you got to say, right, that hasn't worked out, fair enough. But one thing I want to come back to, and I keep coming back to this, is what happened? So, remember when we recruited Arne, and they talked about Amarum, and they talked about Alonso and other coaches, and they said that ultimately Arne Slot was the one that they thought ticked all the boxes because he's able to compete with a smaller budget and show that he can fight against clubs with bigger commercial abilities. He plays a brand of football in a similar philosophy and formation to Jurgen, and it wouldn't be much upheaval, right? Well, where the fuck has that gone? Where is that brand of football that was supposed to be very similar to Jurgen? That it wasn't going to be so much of an upheaval? Because here we are 2 years into it talking about rebuilding. I dare say if you brought in a coach that played 3 at the back 2 years ago, they'd have figured it out by now. And the system would have been figured out, and the personnel would have been figured out. But he's come in, inherited a good team, been given money to make an even better team, and got a mile backwards. Again, sometimes I think this is a bad dream. And I'm in this infinite loop of stupidity. It really feels like Hughes and Edwards have just dug their fucking heels in, and it doesn't matter what happens. He's their guy, and that's it. I don't get it. So here's a mad one. Bodo Glimt. Great season they're having and we're all cheering them on. But Bodo Glimt have scored more goals in the Champions League this season than Liverpool. So One Football posted to say nobody could have predicted this at the start of the season. Bodo Glimt have scored more Champions League goals in 25-26 than Liverpool. And of the two, the Norwegian side look far more likely to reach the quarterfinals. Well, I disagree on that because I think we will make it. But yeah, again, it just doesn't work for me. You know, I'm sitting here supposed to believe that adding in Wirtz, Isak, Ekitike, Frimpong, that somehow done harm. Because one thing I keep reiterating is that title-winning team, outside of 3 players, is pretty much still there. The bones of it is still there. The spine of it is still there. So this talk of too much change, I struggle to accept it because it doesn't feel that matches reality. Exactly, Ben. Exactly, bro. Well said. Ben Palmer said, if Liverpool were winning, the word rebuild would never have been mentioned a single time. Yes. I'm so glad you can see through this bollocks as well, mate, because exactly right. It's just another excuse. Or it's just another way to justify the excuse. Reform said, yes, Craig, it would be one thing if we merely stayed the same as last year, but we've broken the Premier League signing record twice in the summer and regressed. I know, mate. I've been saying this all season. We know what the goals were at the start of the season. We know what us fans talked about expecting this season. And we know that we're way away from that. So this rewriting of history and the narrative of what this season was supposed to be about, it's sickening. If Jota was still here, would we have signed Isak and Ekitike? I think, Paul, we would have signed one of them, mate. I think we would have signed one of them. Yeah, that's again, it's just a thought, but yeah, I think one of them, because we knew we needed to replace Darwin. Like that was, I guess the question is who would have been the one to replace Darwin, and I think they probably would have kept hanging on to get Isak because he seemed to be the number one target. So I think they would have held on as long as they could to get him in. Kean, how are you, dude? Said, hey, Craig, how are you and the fam? Also, what's the latest on Alex and Leone's injury? So, Leone is back doing a little bit of light work, as you've seen. He's back on the grass doing a little bit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He's certainly rehabbing very well, and the progress has been quite good. And there's been a lot of compliments to how hard he's been working as well. Isak, I think you're looking sometime after the international break, but I don't want to throw. It's always very difficult to talk about return dates for long-term injuries because there could be so many little setbacks. They could go out there on the grass and feel something different. So, yeah, you really want to be uber cautious with these things. And I think I'm mentally writing off this season for Isak, in all honesty. I'm not saying he won't play again. He probably will play again. I'm sure he will. But I'm not expecting that much of him this season. I just want to make sure that he is firing and ready to go for the start of next campaign. Jeff Porter said, Slot has to go. I've absolutely no faith we beat Spurs and turned Galatasaray's tie around. When we lost 3-0 to Barca, I remember thinking there's still the time at Anfield, still a game at Anfield. Jeff, I remember on that day, mate, of the second leg of the Barcelona game, I remember speaking with Connor, and we always speak before the game when we're going through a few bits for the channel and, you know, getting things set up. I remember saying to him, I don't know if I'm mad, Connor, but something tells me this isn't over. Something just feels like if ever anybody was going to do it, we would be the ones to do it, and it would be under Klopp. Still probably said it a lot more in hope, Jeff, than expectation, but I wasn't surprised at the comeback. As much as I was happy with it, you know, that's the difference between the Jurgen Klopp era. Under Jurgen, you genuinely felt anything was possible and no mountain was too big. And that connection was so strong that Anfield and those players together with Jurgen on the sideline could overcome any obstacle. Now, it didn't always work out that way, right? But you certainly felt it. So, yeah, going into this game against Galatasaray, hoping to turn around a 1-0 deficit, feels a very long way away from, as you said, being 3 down to a Barcelona team with the greatest player of all time in it. Luis Suarez there, Busquets there, just a brilliant, brilliant team. And we were without Firmino, we were without Mohamed Salah, and we did it. That speaks to the belief Jurgen instilled in these players. That isn't there now. They talk a good thing. I'm sick of hearing about standards and we must do this, we must do that, blah, blah, blah. We just need to see it now. So we have a poll running saying, will you sign Alessandro Bastoni for 80 million, which is the rumoured fee that he would be available for? Is it bad that I'd rather watch Connor milk some cows than watch his slow, unimaginative football for slot? I said to Connor earlier on, you're digging yourself a hole here, bro. These videos are getting more and more elaborate. What are you going to do next? You're going to be here in a couple of months talking about you really having to do something out there in the videos. But yeah, see, I wasn't lying about him being a farmer's son, was I? You seen there in the tractor? Ian said, what are the chances of him going on holidays during the international break and not watching his players on it? I don't know, mate. I don't know, is the honest answer. I'm still wound up by the October international break and that holiday, but I don't know. Let's wait and see. It's not always Slott's fault as to why we lose. However, he sets out the tactics. You can't say more than 15 regular playing players choose to be this bad regularly. Yeah, you're right. Look, we've even tried to say that in our anger towards the manager this season. Like, it isn't all on him. I'm not silly enough or naive enough to think it isn't all on him. But I also truly, truly believe with every fibre of my being that those players, some of them are playing within themselves and are playing with a level of frustration and don't like the way they're being asked to play. That's how I feel about it anyway. It feels like there's an unease around the club and certainly in the dressing room at the way this season is going. Hoarder, how are you, sir? Said, what is Slott's plan? I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't remember him saying, I'm trying to do X, Y, or Z. Whatever he's saying, there is no excuse for this sideways passing the ball bollocks that we watch week in, week out. You know, that's his instruction. Does he have one? I don't know. Like I said, where is this? Like, he talks about Guardiola, he talks about Paris Saint-Germain and the styles of football there and playing football in the... Like, he bangs on about his footballing philosophy and vision so much, but I don't know what it is. Because apparently he wants to play like Barca, he wants to play like Pep Guardiola. We're not looking anything like that. We're not killing teams with intricate passing or, you know, overloading them and breaking them down. We're just side to side, long diagonal ball, hope for a second, ball drops into a half space, low cross, defended, cleared away, recycle, repeat again. So whatever his footballing vision and philosophy is, we're not seeing it, you know, because I like our old one. I like the way we played under Jurgen. We played with balls. We played with passion. David said Bastoni is better in a back three than a back four. That's my belief as well, David. I really think he's a great defender on the left side of a back three, but yeah, I think he needs the. He doesn't strike me as just a centre back in a two in the Prem anyway. So look, but he's still a good player. I want to ask you guys another thing. Actually, I've seen somebody commenting. So we need 100 more votes, and then we can knock this Bastoni one on the head. But I want to ask you about the players' fitness. So if I can ask, if you guys haven't voted yet, we need 98 more clicks. Just click on, would you sign Bastoni for 80 million, yes or no? And then I'll ask you about the fitness levels, because it's a topic that's come up quite a bit this season from pundits, fans, former players. We don't look as fit as we should do. And we're walking around the pitch too much. And where is that intensity gone? Because we're almost at the other end of the spectrum, whereas with Jurgen, we asked, were we doing too much on the training ground? Were we pushing the guys too hard? This looks to be the very opposite end of the spectrum, and you know the distances players are covering and stuff don't seem to be matching up. David said, but I would definitely sign him. Well, apparently, I was reading, David, I don't know if you caught that part. I was reading a post from an Inter fan account, I think it is, and they were saying that their information was that only, I think, Estupinan and, or maybe it's not Estupinan, maybe I've got the guy's name wrong, but there was two players. One of them was Lautaro Martinez, and the other one was the guy's name I can't remember. And they were the only ones that were untouchable for Inter Milan this summer. Every other player has a number that Inter would do business at. Team rep, how are you, dude? Said Craig, if we get past Gala, which I'm not sure will happen, do we get past this PSG side? Only if we play as the best version of ourselves. Because anything less than that, no. We don't get past Paris Saint-Germain. But if, even for those two games, we reach the levels that I believe this group's capable of, yes, we could get past them. But would I be putting my hard-earned money down on it? No, not at the minute. Because nothing suggests that we have those two performances in us. Now, it's possible, but nothing's indicating that those performances are coming. I do think there's a bit of extra motivation for the likes of Dom and Milos, because, of course, the final's in Budapest, and they'd love to play a Champions League final in their home city. So that added incentive is definitely there for those guys. Because look, when we talk about PSG, we have to remember as well, they've been inconsistent at times this season. But the difference is last year and maybe this year, they know when to peak. They know when it's knockout time. They know when the serious business starts. And, you know, maybe foolishly, but I'd hope that would happen to us this year. That, okay, we've muddled through and we're not doing as great as we should, but, you know, you always hope that something would click at some point, and then Liverpool would have this period where we show what we're capable of. Much like Paris Saint-Germain did, winning the Champions League last year and winning everything last year. I'd held out hope that was going to happen this season, but, you know, we're running out of time and it's still not looking on the cards. And with the second leg of that being at Anfield as well, you know, I know it didn't help us enough last year, but it's certainly better than the second leg being away. But if you're looking at the possibilities for us now, you've got Paris Saint-Germain as one potential roadblock. Then you've got Real Madrid, who, again, are somehow finding ways to put up big performances in the Champions League. You've got Bayern Munich, who are absolutely flying and wipe the floor with Atalanta. Without Harry Kane even. So you've got them full of confidence at the other end as well. So it's going to be an incredibly difficult side of the draw to get through for anyone. Anybody who gets to the final from our side very much earned it. Right, if you can, folks, we only need about 25 more votes, and then we'll want to ask you about the fitness, because it's something that I do think there's a conversation around. What's this one? Right, I'll bring this up now in a second. So, LFC Transfer Room posted this, and Keane sent it on to me. Thank you, Keane. Said, stat, since the famous UEFA Champions League semi-final win over Barcelona in 2019, Liverpool have only won one knockout match at Anfield in European competitions. That's shocking. That is shocking. One knockout game since all the way back then in 2019. At Anfield. It's supposed to be a fortress. Joe Barroney said, I really want Conor Bradley back. So do I, but I'm not going to lie, his injury stuff is concerning because as much as I like Conor Bradley as a player and as much as I think, he could be huge if he was fit, I can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is the fitness concerns there. It is a valid concern, and it's a tough call for the club because they gave him a new contract last year. Obviously, Frimpong's brought in as well. But we can't have another season like this season where we're struggling to put an actual right back in the right back position. Right, 8 more votes. And then we are at the 1,000. Craig, I believe our FA finishes this week. City hurting after last night. I just hope they don't rip us apart. When is that game, actually? I know we play Spurs on Sunday, Galatasaray on Wednesday. When is the Manchester City game? I don't know the date off the top of my head. Right, we've got the 1,000 votes. So 59% said you would take Bastoni for 80 million quid, and the 41% said they would not. So here's a question then. Do you think our players lack fitness this season? Because it's been a talking point for a while, to be honest. And we, on the eye, anyway, we don't look as if we have the same energy levels. And the manager's been talking about fatigue all season. Ekitike, to be fair, spoke about the big difference in stepping up to the Premier League and the intensity and the physicality of it. So I just wanted to get your take on that subject. Do we look less fit than we should be, basically? Keane said 4th, a few of you guys, thank you, said 4th of April, first game back after the international break. Oh, that's lovely. Craig comes back from his holiday and the first game is Manchester City in the FA Cup. I mean, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out when I move into the studio. Part of me even thinks, do I let this season finish and then do it for the summer and move in? I'm not sure exactly yet, but yeah, first game back, that's going to be a tough one. Does anybody think we can actually win that game? No, I shouldn't say can, because of course we can win it. Does anybody think we will get past Manchester City in the FA Cup? Because it looks like they're going to be out of the Champions League by that point. They're certainly lagging behind Arsenal in the league. So they have the League Cup final, but, I'm sure they want to go after the FA Cup then as well. So they'll be taking it seriously. How's the studio going? Oh, it's good. It's good. We're genuinely just need a bit of the decorating part now. That's it. We've got all the painting done, all the technical stuff done. It's just a bit of painting and a bit of setting up, and yeah, we're pretty much nearly there. A lot of people saying no, they don't think we can get through. Team Rep said Craig, Arsenal this season are the same level as us. They just have more squad depth and more in form. We've shown it in both games against them. On our day, I've always said we can beat anybody on our day. We just haven't had enough of those type of days. David said yes about fitness, but it isn't down to slot. Isn't down to slot? I mean, surely the head coach is supposed to get the players fit enough. I don't know. We didn't play in the Club World Cup. The players had a rest last summer. They eased off as well when the league was won. So, yeah, I'm struggling to really look at why we'd be not as fit as we should be this year. If this was after a World Cup summer or something like that, maybe, but we've had a rest. Kaz said, I honestly feel the way Slot talks about other teams and managers, coaches, he sounds like a fanboy. I can't stand that anymore. I've said that as well, Kaz. I've no problem with him complimenting the team once, but, save all that for after we've beaten them and then praise them as much as you want. Because while he was doing that, while he was talking about the great style of football Paris Saint-Germain play and how he admires them, their players were standing and sitting in the press conference saying, yeah, we're going to come to Anfield, we're going to win. We don't hold any fear. We're coming to Anfield. We're going to win. We're going to overturn that deficit from the first leg and we're going to go through. Well, that's what I want to hear from my manager. I want to hear that level of certainty, that level of confidence. You can be respectful, of course you can. But it felt defeatist to me, the way he fawned over Paris Saint-Germain and the way he does about Pep Guardiola as well. David said, I said isn't down to Slot. Yes, that's what I said, David. You said yes about fitness, but isn't down to Slot. So is not down to Slot. Did you mean to say it's down to Slot? Because yeah, you wrote yes about fitness, but isn't down to Slot. So I think it is down to Slot personally. Itachi said, evening Craig and everybody, all good. I really like the mood here the last few weeks. Much love to all AA. Same. It's been lovely. It's been so helpful to me on a personal level to be able to come in and bounce ideas off people and unload some of the frustrations as well. PDHY word. I know we can beat City and apparently they're having issues in the back room, so I'm hoping will affect the players and we beat them. Be lovely. Yeah, it'd certainly be a big boost if we could go there and get the win in the FA Cup. Certainly you'd feel the competition's there for the win at that point. You see, Jordan, I don't care what you think about my agenda against the manager, mate. I really don't give a fuck because I'm right. You tell me, don't kick him out, don't block him. I want him to justify why you think I'm wrong, Jordan. So you've said you can't listen to me anymore. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm all ears, mate. You're not going to be removed from the chat. Tell me why I'm wrong or shut the fuck up. One or the other. Because it's all very well and good you coming in accusing me of having an agenda against the manager. If I have an agenda against the manager, then 99% of the other people in the chat now must have an agenda against the manager because we're all in the same boat. We all feel the same way. And I'm not going to come on here and say that black is white, up is down, left is right. I'm not going to do it. So you have the floor. You explain why I'm wrong, you're right, and that Arna shouldn't be fired. I'm all ears, bro. Work away. I'll come back to it in a minute if you can find it in you to come up with a valid retort. I fear you won't because you're just another person coming in to try and have a dig at me, disguise it as something else and fuck off. But again, all yours. Crack on. Wearied, Madge said, hopefully we end the season with a good finish because this season's been a hard watch for most of us. Yeah, look, I think we'll end up in the Champions League spots. I do think we'll finish into the top 5. But other than that, I don't think we win anything at this point. The draw is why I'm saying I don't think we win anything. If that had been a home against Man City or, if we had got a slightly better draw, then yeah. I would have felt a bit more optimistic. But that draw kind of, yeah, it put the kibosh on any optimism I had for some silverware this season, unfortunately. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we can find a way to get past them. Never said you're wrong, Craig, but you bang on about it every day. Ultimately, it won't change. We all want him gone, but nothing changing right now. The players are just as responsible. So, thank you for responding, mate. You say I bang on about it, but if 90% of the comments are about the manager, what do you expect me to talk about? Like, I've gone through tonight, mate, and I've prepared all my notes, and not one of my notes are about Arne Slot. Not one. Nothing in my notes other than perhaps the workload on players that Simon Brundish posted is about Arne Slot. So you understand this is an interactive show, right? You know, you've been around a while now. You've seen how the show works. So what am I supposed to say if somebody asks me something about the manager or we're talking about the manager? I'm obviously going to give my opinion on it. So, you know, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in that regard. Because I can read through every one of my notes here, and there's about 22, 23 things in my notes, and not one of them, other than, one thing, there is one that Jamie Carragher says Arne Slot is ultimately responsible for Liverpool's fortunes this season. Apart from that, none of my notes have anything to do with Arne Slot. So, again, I don't think, even the title of the stream has nothing to do with Arne. So, you know, I don't think it's me pushing the conversation as much as it is the talking points that people want to discuss. It just feels good to be here with you all after a long, busy and stressful day at work. Feels like home. Thank you, bro. Lovely to have you in as well. That is exactly what I hope for, you know, that you can switch off for a little bit, have a chat, and we can, you know, kick a few ideas around. Look, I do truly take Jordan's point on board. Like, I'm open to these things, but if I really wanted to push my agenda, Jordan, I could do it in a much more powerful way. I could plaster all of our social medias with Arne out propaganda. I could talk about it all the time. I could ask people to post their stuff in anger at the manager. I don't do any of that, mate. I always just give you my opinion on whatever I'm asked about. And, you know, that's not going to change. Or I can change, quite frankly, because that's the show. So, yeah. It is what it is. And if you don't feel this is, you can watch, absolutely no problem with it. But I just wanted to give you my perspective on the conversation and why it goes the direction it goes in. So, anyway, let's get back to some of the notes. Sean Dyche, according to Miguel Delaney, is being lined up and considered as a potential replacement for Igor Tudor at Tottenham Hotspur. He goes on to say Sean Dyche is reluctant to take on a short-term role, but he is considered as one of the few survival experts remaining in the game. Yeah, the whole Igor Tudor thing really doesn't seem to be working out for Spurs. They look lost at the minute. I'm not going to lie about this one. I'm hoping they don't pull the trigger and fire him till at least after we play them on Sunday, because I don't want them getting any type of boost mentally or emotionally before we play them. So yeah, I want us to go and get a bit of confidence in that game. I think you underestimate how much pull you have in the space, mate. Just found the last few weeks a bit same. Just my opinion, but again, appreciate your honest feedback. So I'm smiling because you've said you found the last few weeks a bit same. Fair. I've felt that watching the team as well, though. So I try to mix it up, Jordan. I do talk about transfer topics. You know, we talk about, like, look at the polls tonight. We've been talking about, would you like this player? Do you think that player? But it's very, very difficult to do 2 hours of live content every night of the week and not go back over similar topics, because people drop in and out of the chat at different times. They'll post what they want to say. They might not have seen the start of the stream. It just is what it is. It's nigh on impossible to do 2 hours of live content every night and not maybe go over some old ground and stuff. But it's genuine feedback, so I do take it on board. It is quite difficult to do live content. It'd be easier to just stick up 8-minute videos and crack on with them, but this is the part of what I do that I love the most, being able to interact and chat with people. And, I can't just ignore a subject, because it's the biggest subject at our club right now. The managerial situation is the biggest thing. Leona said, had my last Leaving Cert parent-teacher meeting today. It was a frightful sight after my mocks. Hope the family are well. You'll be grand. You'll be grand, Leona. The mocks are there to scare you into brushing up on whatever it is that, you may be lagging a bit behind on. I think we all done a little bit worse in our mocks than we ended up doing, but you just give it your best chance. That's all you can do, Leona. And your parents, I'm sure, will be proud of you no matter what. Whatever happens in school, it isn't the end of the world, I never went to go to college. Didn't have an opportunity to do it because of family situations. Then, I became an adult and had responsibilities and had to put a roof over my head and stuff like that. And education wasn't really a priority at that point. But, just be you. Give it your best shot. My son's a big worrier as well. And, he stresses about stuff that is way out of his control. And I'm trying to give him some of my insight on things I've worried about over the years. But school is, it's a thing, but it's not the defining thing about you. I know plenty of people who, maybe didn't excel in school, but went on to excel in life in lots of other ways. David said, hi mate, do you think Slot goes this year? See? See what I mean, Jordan? At this point, David, I'm starting to fear the worst case scenario of him staying. But I just think common sense would dictate the way things have gone. Yeah, a break's the way to go. And when we were talking yesterday about David Ornstein's comments about the club feeling he's the guy, well, why haven't they given him a new deal? Because there was a new deal being talked about at the start of the season, and it's gone really quiet since then. Aaron, I remember saying there was no rush on it and whatever. And now here we are at the other end of the season. And the idea of a new contract would feel mental. Nick Raymond said, we're coming to almost a year where the football has been shite. All started with the PSG second leg and Newcastle League Cup final. Boring football. Yeah, I don't know what maybe in his mind made him feel like something needed to change as drastically as it has, because it feels like we're playing within ourselves and with the brakes on a little bit, Nick, that maybe we were too open at times, but I still, Jamie Carragher would argue we're still too open in some of the ways we transition and some of the ways you're able to get at us through midfield. But that's the thing. It does feel like, and maybe this applies to the players as well, it does feel like they're afraid to make a mistake, or safety first is the call of the day. And the way our team is and the players we have in and the way our identity has been built, safety first isn't the way to go. High risk, high reward is the type of football that we played, are used to, that the fans thrive from, that excites people inside the stadium. And he is capable of coaching that high risk, high reward football. I think the biggest disappointment for me about Arne this season has been that I expected us to look something like PSG this year, because we brought in calibers of players that I thought would take that next step up for us. And I went into this season thinking, right, well, we've gone out there and he's got in, Florian Wirtz, and he's brought in fullbacks with pace and energy. And I expected that real high line, high press, fullbacks high up the pitch. But it hasn't happened. Um, yeah, and that's I don't know why. I don't know why it hasn't happened, but that's the confusing part of it all, because I don't think this is the football he wants to play. I really don't. Um, but this is the football we are playing. And I've said straight away this season we're lacking in pace. I think that's been, and that, to be fair, is nothing. No manager could do something about that at the minute. In that regard, we just don't have enough pace in the team. Rio, of course, will give us a little bit of that, but if you look at Salah, slowed down a little bit. Still not slow, but not what he once was. Gakpo's never been lightning quick. Ekitike does have a turn of pace, to be fair. But I still think, yeah, we need more energy and more speed in the team. I think Keenan Yildiz instead of Gakpo. I can imagine him in red. He's a very good player. Yildiz. He is. Very good player. Right, let me fly through the notes for everybody. Coming in maybe a bit late. Let me fly through all the news from start to finish that I have in my notes. So, we start off with Anfield Watch. They said Jamie Carragher said Arne Slot is ultimately responsible for Liverpool's fortunes this season. Managers carry the can, is the quote. Then we moved on to a report from Sport, which I believe are a Spanish-based outlet, and they said Ousmane Dembele's agent, Moussa Sissoko, has met with Manchester City sporting director. The Frenchman is under contract with PSG until 2028, but negotiations over a contract extension are not progressing positively. As a result, Sissoko was exploring other options for the Ballon d'Or contender. Then we had Alexis McAllister speaking to Lagos Neta, saying, I became a dad and you start prioritising a lot of things, and maybe it's not so selfish to only do what I want. I really don't know what that's about, but it's an intriguing phrase. So then we talked Miguel Delaney with Sean Dyche, saying Sean Dyche is being considered as a potential replacement for Igor Tudor at Spurs. Dyche is reluctant to take on a short-term role. He's considered as one of the few survival specialists remaining in the game. Then we had Dale Johnson of the BBC talking about the fifth place for the Champions League and how England remain on course to secure that fifth Champions League spot, despite Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea and City losing the first leg of their last 16 ties. He goes on to say, however, poor results for English clubs in the Europa and Conference League could still make the race tighter, with the biggest impact likely to come if teams are eliminated next week. Then we talked about a report that Empire of the Cup posted saying Liverpool are expected to step up their interest in Juventus centre-back Pierre Kalulu after recently scouting missions elicited very positive feedback on the 25-year-old who was also being watched by Manchester United. Then we had a quote from Jurgen Klopp that Empire of the Cup, shared from 2016, which was his footballing philosophy. He said, having memorable games in a row, that's my first target. You leave the stadium wanting to see the next game. You can't wait for the next game. That's what football should be. If you can do this very often, then you will be successful 100%. They finished by saying, we're a far cry away from that at this moment. Then we talked about Simon Brundish's post where he looked at 8 of the players are on target to record career high minutes played, and just gives a good example of the workload some of these guys are under this year. He said Szoboszlai will smash his record next Wednesday against Galatasaray. Our 34-year-old warhorse of a captain will set a career benchmark. He said basically Virgil van Dijk's career high minutes are 5,815 and he's on track to hit 6,323. Szoboszlai, 4,670 was career max minutes from so far. He's on track to hit 6,136 minutes. Gravenberch, career high, was just a tad bit below 5,000 minutes. His new trajectory is 5,148 minutes. KONATE, 4,217 being his peak. He's on target to go close to 5,100 minutes. McAllister, 4,700. He's on course to break that by nearly 100 minutes. And then Milos Kerkez, Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike all about to put up record minutes in a season in their careers thus far. Graham Bailey said Liverpool have added Monaco winger Akliouche. Excuse my pronunciation again. It's spelled Akliouche. Magnus Akliouche as their shortlist as they consider attacking reinforcements for the summer, with scouts in attendance last Friday to watch the 22-year-old in action against Paris Saint-Germain. Then Peter O'Rourke said Liverpool hold a long-term interest in Alessandro Bastoni, but Inter will only entertain bids in excess of £80 million for the defender. Then there was a piece from Team Talk. Grizzly, thank you, bro, for gifting 10 memberships. Absolute legend, mate. Thank you so much. Liverpool have moved swiftly to quash speculation surrounding their star playmaker Florian Wirtz amid ongoing speculation suggesting he could be offloaded to Real Madrid after just one season on Merseyside, and sources sharing the verdict from inside Kirby on why the German is poised to become a major player for the Reds next season. Then we had the Matej Moretto post that said Real Madrid will consider offers for Kamavinga this summer. €50 million is the asking price. Then there was Alex Crook, who said Ibrahima Konate's future at Liverpool remains uncertain. While talks with Liverpool are ongoing, Real Madrid are among the clubs understood to be monitoring Konate's situation. Then we talked about John Aldridge suggesting a familiar name to me and Irish people, Nathan Collins, as a defender he'd like to see Liverpool look at. He said, Nathan Collins, what you see is what you get. He's just a defender. He's a typical type of defender. Sometimes you don't want the fancy footballers. You need somebody who can just put his head in the ball from a corner, a set play, or get rid of it and head the ball 30 yards like you used to do. That would be an interesting signing. Then there was Gary Lineker, who was talking on the Rest is Football podcast about Galatasaray's disallowed second goal against us in the Champions League. He said, I've watched it 50 times and it's absurd. There's no impact from Yilmaz. It's just a terrible, terrible decision, and VAR just waved it on. So we talked a little bit about that one. Then we had John Aldridge saying that Liverpool would love to have Jurgen Klopp back if Arne Slot was to leave the club. He tipped the German to make a sensational return should Arne Slot exit Anfield at the end of the season. On that one, I just can't even bring myself to entertain the idea of Jurgen coming back, because I don't want that heartache all over again if he doesn't come back. I'd welcome him back with open arms, but I'm not bringing myself to think about it just yet, because I don't want to set myself up for more pain in that regard. So yes, that is pretty much everything we've discussed, and as you can see, Jordan, very little there about Arne Slot in those notes, so I didn't come in and don't come in primed to make this all about Arne Slot. And mate, even if you look at the podcast today, I tried to flip it on its head. In the podcast, I did a segment in it with the lads where we had to pitch the reasons why he should keep his job, and we tried to have that conversation. So whatever your beliefs about how I come into these streams are, it isn't my intention to just come in and bang on about Arne for 2 hours. Unfortunately, that's the direction things go sometimes, because people want to unload, people want to get feelings off their chest, and, I'm here to interact with people and respond to their comments. Grim Reaper said, Craig, in my mind, Macca's quote means he's focusing more on fatherhood, as that for the rest of his life, while playing football will be for the next 5 to 7 years, since he's 27 now. Yeah, it could be about anything. Like I said, it could be about that, could be about his career, could be about just, maybe him being too nice up to this point in his life or something. I don't know. I just found it was spreading and doing the rounds quite a bit, and I wasn't sure if I was missing out on something really clear there. Mate, you should be Liverpool manager, no joke. Oh, Sammy, I'm not cut out to be a manager, mate. I wouldn't have it in me. I don't have the technical understanding the way coaches would. I've had this dialogue in my head for a few years, and I've been asking myself, has football been overly complicated? Like, have they overthought football here? Because sometimes I look at it and just think, you watch some teams like Arteta's Arsenal team, and you just think they're just overcoached. Everything is just, like, I use the phrase football by numbers. It just feels like sometimes it's overthought. And I know Manchester City fans certainly feel that way about Guardiola sometimes, that he overthinks the big games. Sometimes you just need to, yes, do the basics right, but express yourself. Go out there and play with no fear. If we do sign Bastoni, PJ Green, how are you, mate? Do you think we could switch from our formation to have two strikers, wing backs, and just three in the back? Bastoni could fit in. Definitely the three at the back thing. It's an interesting one you've raised about the two centre forwards, because a lot of people, well, maybe it's just my interpretation of this. When you think of a 3-5-3, excuse me, 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, you're usually talking about a striker, especially in 3-5-2, a striker with a 10 playing off them. Very rare these days, really, to see two centre forwards up there. But we could do it, yes. But you'd have to go something probably like a 3-4-3, and one of the three being Verts in the hole behind the two strikers. Then you've got two central midfields behind two wingers. So, yeah, it could be done, but it's rare in modern football, really, for teams to set up with two strikers. I went full Todd Bowley there for a second as I was going 3-5-3. I was thinking, all right, Todd, calm down. Would you guys agree that right now, if both lads were fit tomorrow, that right now Hugo's the guy that starts? Because he's earned that right. Would you agree with that? With, like, let's say Isak was back next week and we had to play one forward. It's Isak that needs to do the making up. It's Ekitike's shirt right now. Like, for me, he's earned the right to be the centre forward, and Isak has to take the shirt off him. Craig, should we change all Liverpool's team? We need new skeleton. Well, we're going to have a lot of changes in the next few years, and we're going to lose a lot of experience, like we've spoken about. Andy Robertson's going to depart, most likely. Well, if he doesn't now, he's going to depart in the near future. Salah, Virgil, Alisson, that's a lot of experience. So, we've added in some players now that are building up that experience. The likes of Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister has a wealth of it. But these are big people to replace in the dressing room, and, standard bearers for what we've achieved over the last few years. Yep, for Hugo, said Kazmark. Hugo's better than Isak until proven otherwise. Yes, but Isak will come through, said Itachi. Isak has a lot of work to do, said Haris. I'd say both start and Gakpo hits the bench. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be against one of them moving into the left channel, mate. And probably Ekitike, but yeah, I'm just saying, if we're just going to play one centre forward right now, I feel like it's only fair that the shirt's Ekitike's. Wearied Madge said Hugo has earned it since the start. He has shown that he's very promising for the future. I love him. I really, really love him. I think he just brings that bit of flair as well to the team and dressing room, and he's a very easy guy to like, Ekitike. Can you please read my comment out? I'm saying for every Liverpool fan on here, not people who's trolling. Let me try and find it, Paddy Wacker. Actually, be easier to find it in this chat. You remember, aren't you? Yeah, easy to find it in this chat. 1 second. Sorry, dude. I'm just scrolling back here to find it. I don't know which one you're referring to, dude. I've seen a comment where you're interacting with somebody, you're responding to somebody, but I don't. Yeah, sorry, mate. I might have missed it, but I can't find it. Is this Keen sent it to me, is it? All right, cool. Okay. So the comment is, Craig, it doesn't look like we're playing to win. In my opinion, we're playing not to lose. No risk, no reward. But you need to know when, as a team, we need to press. I can count the times we pressed on one hand. Is that the comment, dude? Yeah, the press has not been good enough this year. And I have often said to you guys that I'm a big believer in defending from the front, and that starts with the press. Because if teams are going to try and go long or direct behind us, you don't want to give them the time to look up and be able to spot the pass. You want to hurry them into these decisions. And if a team can play around a well-worked press, then they've earned the right to have that space. But you are right, and it leans into the energy levels that we've spoken about being lacking this season. And the press has been nowhere near as good as we would have expected it to be. There have been a couple of times where I've looked at the press and thought, okay, like you've said, maybe count them on one hand. But there have been a few occasions where the press looks good, but you really need to buy in from everybody for that press. You know, it can't. Everybody needs to be on board. We act pressed well in the first 10 minutes against Galatasaray, but we couldn't take our chances, and then it was just shite the whole game. Yeah, we did start that game brightly, and they looked shaky. I was saying it in our commentary on the watch along. It felt like that was the time to quieten down the stadium, to take that early goal, and then, you know, make it tougher on Galatasaray that night. And because they got through that sticky opening exchange, they grew into the game, and then they got their goal and the second one that was ruled out. But you're right, we did start it very well, and I did think, okay, here we go, we're looking better. And honestly, at that point, I thought we were going to win the game. But unfortunately, we didn't capitalise on it, and we wasted a lot of early opportunities and let them off the hook. Craig, do you think we could play Salah and Ekatike up top, similar to how he and Marmoush lined up for Egypt? It is a little bit surprising to me that we haven't seen Mo reinvented in a new way. When he signed the new contract, I think we all accepted that the fitness wise, we accepted, okay, maybe he isn't going to be asked to do as much tracking back and as much defensive work as maybe he would have been asked to do under Jurgen. But it's not something I see happening, but it's something I thought could have happened. You know, a lot of players reinvent themselves. Ronaldo's a great example of it as a centre forward as he got older. And I do think there could have been a shout for Mo. Chris made a good point on the podcast, though, about your striker probably having to be better with 2 feet than we would see from Salah, who's very predominantly left-footed. That was an interesting point, because we talked about that exact thing on the podcast, which is definitely worth a listen. If you get a chance, it's up on Spotify. Right, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody in a moment, but before I do, let's finish up this poll. We asked, do you think our players lack fitness this season? And 81% of those of you that voted said yes, you do think they're lacking some fitness. There's a clip from the podcast up on the channel. It went out at about 10:30, so do check that one out. Tomorrow, we'll see you, same time, same place. And Connor will be here in the morning with a video. I'll have a news video in the evening. Appreciate all of you dropping in tonight, as always. Do hit that like button for me before you head off. If you can, it really does help us. And of course, appreciate you taking the time to come and join me and have a chat. If it is tough going at times, if you do feel like I'm maybe talking too much on a particular subject, please do feel free to always highlight it to me, especially if, you know, it's a genuine comment like Jordan's was. No problem with anything like that. Your feedback is always very welcome. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have a lovely evening. Much love.